what is flow, and then what are the things that inhibit high-performing individuals from getting into flow, so that they can really, in order for them to really get the most done throughout the day. So let's start with what is flow, and just talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So flow states, or depending on where you are in time, runner's high, being in the zone. If you're a basketball player today, you call it being unconscious. If you're a jazz musician, you're being in the pocket. If you're a stand-up comic, they call it the forever box. The term scientist prefers flow, and it's technically defined as an optimal state of consciousness where we perform our best and we feel our best. So flow refers to those moments of total absorption, where we get so focused on the task at hand, the action and awareness start to merge, your sense of self, your self-consciousness, they disappear completely. Time dilates. That means in most cases, time slows down or speeds up, and 5 hours will pass by in like 5 minutes. Other cases, it slows down and you get that freeze frame effect familiar to anyone who's been in a car crash. And throughout, all aspects of performance, mental and physical, go through the roof. So two other things are really important. Flow is actually a technical term. When Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, who was the sort of the godfather of modern flow research, even though research dates back about 150 years, he kind of came in the 60s and 70s. He was the chairman of the University of Chicago Psychology Department. He did what is now one of the largest global happiness, quote unquote, studies ever conducted. And he went around the world asking about people about the times in life they felt their best and they performed their best. And he learned a couple of things. One, everybody kept saying, they kept describing flow states, and when they were describing, they said, well, in this state, everything is automatic. Every decision, every action leads seamlessly, fluidly, perfectly to the next. It feels flowy. So flow is a technical term that describes actually the sensation, the experience the user has in this state. A couple other things that Csikszentmihalyi discovered back then that are still critical to everybody today. Second thing is that flow is ubiquitous. So it is a state that is easily achievable by anyone, anywhere, provided certain initial conditions are met, and we'll talk about those conditions later.
Sure.
And secondly, the other thing to know is most people have experiences with flow, right? If you've ever gotten so sucked into a work conversation that the afternoon disappears, you've tasted the experience. If you've taken part in a great brainstorming session where ideas just start flying out of the room, that's also a taste of flow. But it is a spectrum experience. So Csikszentmihalyi identified 10 defining characteristics. I mentioned some of them earlier: the merger of action and awareness, the dilation of time, the vanishing of self, right? So there's 10 of these. You can be in a state of microflow when only a couple of these conditions show up. So say there's intense focus on the task at hand and the merger of action and awareness. Or you can have macro flow, right? So that's when all 10 of these characteristics show up at once, and it's a full-scale quasi-mystical experience by many accounts. And it functions, think of it like any emotion, right? Anger, you can be a little irked and homicidally murderous. It's the same emotion. Flow is the same thing. It's a spectrum. Most people, believe it or not, spend about 5% of their work life in flow, right? So it is very common, it is very ubiquitous, but there is this kind of maximum exalted state where all kinds of miraculous performance enhancement takes place, and that's why it's most of interest here.
That's incredible. And, that one of the things that you'd written in Becoming Superman was that executives are far more productive in this state, right? They're getting way more work done in less time. And, and talk a little bit about the benefit of
let's talk about so in Rise of Superman, the quote you're referring to is a McKinsey, right, the business consulting firm, 10-year study. And they found that top executives in flow are 5 times more productive than out of flow. So 5 times more productive, that's 500% more productive. What that means technically is you could go to work on Monday, spend Monday in flow, take Tuesday through Friday off, and get as much done as your steady state peers. Now, to take it one step further, because people hear productivity and that's a little vague, so let's drill down into what the science now tells us about specifically things that are accelerating flow that really matter in today's business world. And I would point to, there's a lot more going on, and again, we can talk about that later, but the 3 things for me, if we're talking to entrepreneurs, we're talking to business people, that matter the most. are the flow's impact on motivation, creativity, and learning. So let's start with motivation.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna go into a little bit of the science here because it helps people understand what's going on.
Yeah.
So the first thing you need to know is that according to a recent Gallup survey, 71% of American workers are actively disengaged on the job. Wow. So 3 out of 4 of us pretty much hate what we do with the majority of our time. The rest of the people have jobs that generate flow. What do I mean by this? Well, underneath flow, there's really complicated neurobiology. The brain's doing a lot of really radical things. One of the things it's doing is it's dumping 5 of the most potent neurochemicals the brain can produce in the system at once. So these are all performance-enhancing chemicals primarily, but they're also mood-boosting chemicals, right? So for one example, you get dopamine, right? Dopamine is a very extremely potent reward chemical. Just to give you an idea of how potent it is, cocaine is considered the most addictive substance on Earth, period, right? All that happens when people use cocaine is it causes the brain to release dopamine and block its reuptake so the brain can't reabsorb it quickly, right?
Right.
One of the 5 chemicals that show up in flow is dopamine. Right. All right, so the whole cocktail is literally the most addictive cocktail on Earth. It's the best you can feel, pretty much. It's the best the brain can make you feel. And flow is the only time these chemicals show up all at once. Now, scientists, they hate the word addictive for obvious reasons, right? It's got lots of negative connotations. So instead, the technical term is autotelic. It means an end in itself.
Right.
So when something is autotelic, when it generates flow, we will seek it out at great expense just from the experience of it, right? So researchers talk about flow as the source code of intrinsic motivation. Right?